It's a great honor and pleasure for me to be here with you on this evening. And Saturday evening or Friday evening is not a most appropriate time to listen to lectures. There are so many other things to be done. I am very delighted that so many of people are here. Swamiji wanted me to come to Colombo. This is our last trimester. I am still teaching. We have exams, correction, and convocation is coming 2 weeks down. I was very reluctant, actually, because of the time thing. But Swamiji is being Swamiji. One cannot say no to him first. Second is he offered me an incentive. He told, we will go to Kadirgama. Then that was a great incentive, because we all grew up with the song. I think all of you know about it. Kadirgamatture Kadirven Muruga, Painippaduval Balakumara, Avinan Kudival, Adage Vela, Sindhirma Malayarum, Sengalvaraya. It goes on. Kandarshetti Kavacham, I can tell from even now, my memory is reasonably okay. So when Swamiji told Kadirgam, then I cannot say no. With or without lecture, okay, we will go there. Because it, he calls you. It's not never you go there. Whenever he wants you, you go there. That is the famous thing about Lord Muruga. Same thing is told about Balaji in Tirupati. He calls you. It's not that you go there or anything. Anyhow, so I thought, so Swamiji has in a way given the additional incentive. And it's a very great honor to be in the midst of people in this hall. And I have come here earlier, but unfortunately I could not visit other places, just only the capital city. Now we will spend some time on succeeding in emerging markets. To start with, we will look at what is happening in the emerged markets, what type of things are taking place there. Then we will look at emerging markets and what are the type of developments which are taking place and how to leverage on it or how to benefit out of that. And we will also focus on our country in the context of the developments which are taking place. So that would be the structure of the discussion. Now everybody, I think, knows in the area of economics and finance, people are talking about global crisis, major type of a crisis, and all are trying to offer their own solutions and how to come out of it and other things. When there was a crisis in Thailand and Indonesia, not so much in Malaysia, in the beginning of this century, it was called Asian economic crisis. I'm sure most of you would be remembering that. So much was written about it and other things. Then around 5, 6, there was a crisis in Argentina, to large extent in Chile also, but not in Brazil. That was called Latin American financial crisis. And so much was time and effort were spent to. Now there is a crisis in Ireland, Greece, Spain, Italy, France, and this is called global economic crisis. That's something very interesting actually. And there is a crisis in Asia, it's called Asian economic crisis. And there is a crisis in Latin America, it's a Latin American crisis. But when there is a crisis in these 3, 4 countries, it's called global crisis. They want everybody to be part of it or participate in that, right? It's a very interesting thing. But it's not really a global crisis. What has taken place, if you want to know, is this is what has taken place in the world today. If you go back to 1990, which is not very far away, 24 years before, the whole world, the G7, I'm sure most of you are aware of G7, now it has become G20. Originally it was G7, and there is a crisis, you tend to include more people. That's a standard procedure everywhere. You think more people mean crisis will go away. It won't go away. It will add to the crisis. Anyhow, when there is everything is going well, you want to remove people because you would like to get the. So the G7 had 51% of the global GDP. Is adjusted for what is called the purchasing power parity. The emerging markets had something like 36%. Emerging markets, primarily, large markets are India and China, and Brazil, Indonesia, and South Africa. These are the big markets in terms of numbers, and primarily Asian situation. If you come back to 2011 or 2012, the G7 has got only 36% of the global GDP. The other one is got 52%. And this is International Monetary Fund forecast, or rather the numbers. Not only that, they forecast by 2020, G7 will only have 24 to 25% of the global GDP. In other words, G7 is having a decline. This I am not telling, because if I am telling, who is going to listen? IMF is, that is very important. Who tells is more important than what is told. IMF is telling, Wall Street Journal has written, New York Times have written, everybody feels that is the correct situation. Right? 2007, I wrote an article about decline of G7. And somebody interviewed me, when it will pick up, when the crisis will be over. I told, whose crisis? And this is, then it will take, I told, 40 quarters to improve. 40 quarters mean 10 years. After that, that no business channel interviewed me for a long time, because they thought this fellow is a... Very recently, this BBC business channel again interviewed me. How long it will take to recover, sir? I told 80 quarters. 80 quarters mean he is a very sharp in mathematics, that girl. 80 by 4, 20 years you are telling. Look, madam, we are in the teaching profession. Even if a student gets 5 marks out of 100, we say scope for improvement. We never say he is a hopeless fellow. And these days, I think you also will agree, you can't say a fellow is hopeless fellow. You will take me to civil rights and all the, human rights issue it will become. Sir is telling I am hopeless. The other day, one student was not submitting reports regularly. I told, what has happened to you? You were very good earlier. Now you have become lazy. He told, sir, don't call me lazy. I asked him, why? I am not lazy, sir. I am differentially motivated. That is how you have to... So, for everything, there is a new terminology. You can't call a fellow lazy. You have to tell him he is differentially motivated. So, I told, look, this is not going to recover. Period. The era of G7 has come to an end. Take it from me. Instead of telling that, I am telling it will take 20 years, 25 years like that. It's like, doctor, if you go and ask what is the chance, he is never going to say that he is going away, right? He will first want you to settle the bill, of course. That is the most important thing. And he will say, yeah, there is a chance. It's, like that he will. So like that this is 1820, the growth of the West started, 1820. Till 1820, as the earlier, India and China had 50% of the global GDP. Every century, not 1 or 2 centuries, 2 countries of the world had the largest share of the global position. 1820, the decline started. And from 1820, it is slowly coming to an end in 2020. 200 years of the significant growth. Now the question automatically is, what is the problem, sir? Why are they having this decline? The reason is simple. They are all phenomenally indebted. All the G7 countries and other developed countries have huge amount of borrowing, debt. What we call in financial jargon leverage. Left and right, they have got borrowing. Canada is 273%. Now it is crossed 300. These numbers are all slightly earlier numbers, around April numbers. US is now above 300%. US debt is more or less similar to its GDP today. 18 trillion. Last week it has crossed. Britain, our own Britain, I call it, because sooner or later all of us have to run that country, I can assure you. Everyone. The earlier colonies, they will come and say, do something for us. They are in very bad shape. And they will say it is your responsibility also, suddenly. You cannot deny that. After all, we have ruled you for such a long time. You can't leave us in despair, right? So Britain is in a very bad shape. 510%. Japan, of course, is. All of these are When we say debt in the general context, three types of debt are there. One is the government debt, the government or the state debt as it is called. Other is the company debt, corporate debt it is called. Third is the household debt. Government debt, there is not much to worry because every government all over the world have access to printing press. They can print, and then in India it is called Nasik press. I am sure here also there is a press. Right? They can always print, and so government debt is never a. Of course, that will have other implication. Inflation will go up, and other way. No government worries about people, so it doesn't matter. All over the world, they will print and distribute it. That's all. So government debt is not of that concern. That is why it is called sovereign debt, whatever the big name, and there is no rating done for that. Another. The second is the corporate debt. All over the world, slowly what is emerging is corporate debt becomes a problem of bankers, not of borrowers. If I borrow some, say, Indian rupee, 50 lakhs, and then I have a flat or something, every month I have to worry about EMI, sit with my wife, how to arrange it, another thing. If I borrow 400 crore, who will be worrying? The banker will be worrying, not me. I am not going to be worried. So all over the world, huge amount of corporate debts have come up. And most of these corporate debts are now saddled from the banker's point of view. Bankers are more concerned. I'm sure many of you would be familiar with the Ramayana episode. You know, this Rama and Ravan had a battle, and Ravan lost his crown, and he lost his horses, he lost his chariot, he lost his arrows, everything was lost. Then Ram was feeling, there is no point in fighting with this fellow now. He tell him, you go back to your palace and come tomorrow. Then the Kambar beautifully says, Kadan Pattar Nanjampol Kalangi Nindran Elange Vendan. That is, the king of Sri Lanka was so much worried, so much concerned, as if he is an indebted man, that he borrowed money. If Kambar was alive today, he would have changed it. Kadan Guduttar Nanjambol, the one who gave money. One who receives money is happily is going around. We have a huge liquor baron. You might have read about him, 7,000 crore he owes banks. He says, which bank? Where? I don't know anything about it. He is moving around. So corporate debt is now getting saddled to, increasingly to bankers. What happened? When it gets saddled to banker, bankers make a huge hue and cry. And finally, the government has to go and rescue that. But the third debt, this is what is the government debt. This is what is the major issue or major problem. Phenomenal amount of household debt in these countries. Most of the households have borrowed beyond imaginable situation in all these countries. Household debt is essentially due to either house itself on mortgage, or it is for educational purposes, or third is consumption. Consumption debt is the largest of the lot. And most of the households have forgotten a 6-letter word called saving in all the developed countries. Households don't save anymore. Some of them are negative saving actually. Whereas in countries, developing countries, many of us, we save 28%, 30% like that. And significant amount of saving comes from households only in our context. So there, they don't save. That is the fundamental type of an issue facing those economies. And why they are not saving? Because they have also forgotten, or there is a decline in another 6-letter word called family. Families are significantly in decline in most of these countries. The institution of family is endangered, actually, many of these countries. So most of the households, either in Northern Europe, they tax most, or in some other countries, they don't even tax, but they don't create a fund. But the government has to take care. Government has to take care of the youngsters, unemployment allowance. Greece is running some 52% youth unemployment. All of them have to be given dole. And elderly citizens, again, government has to take care. In the traditional model, elderly people were taken care by the youngsters in the family. But now it is all handed over to government. So what has happened for the last 25, 30 years is families have been nationalized. Take my word for it. All these countries, and many of us are also imitating the same model. It won't work. Families have been nationalized, business is privatized. This is what has happened. And the state responsibility is becoming more and more. Phenomenal amount of, because family as an institution, when it goes, there is no incentive to save. Why do people save? Most of the people save because of family. If I go away, what will happen to her? If she goes away, what will happen to him? Some sort of a consideration is always there in terms of bequeathing, in terms of. So family creates certain amount of responsibilities and also to some extent some insecurities. And when once that institution is, so the Archbishop of London very nicely put it, the sovereignty of the family is dead in all our European countries. There was a riot, I don't know whether you recall, in 2010, lot of youngsters, kids actually, in the age of 10 to 20, they were all rioting in the streets of London, UK. They looted shops and took away the electronic goods and took away and there was a hue and cry in UK that time. Why did they do this? And I was in Manchester that time. One shop was not attacked by any of them. That was a bookshop. There was no need for, so I don't think that is of any use for any youngster these days, right? So that was kept as it is. So then they constituted a committee with the Chancellor of Exchequer in London, UK, and the Archbishop, and there was that report is available in the net actually. Very fascinating report. And one of the major things is sovereignty of the family is dead. And they also found very interesting, there are more households with the television sets in UK today than husbands. Husband has become an endangered species. He will soon come in the National Geography or those. You know why? Because huge amount of births outside marriage has become phenomenally high in all these countries. 50% of the children born in US is out of wedlock. And the New York Times write, what is illegitimate has become new normal. See, massive crisis facing those. And unfortunately among blacks and Latinos it is very high. Blacks it is very high, 75%. So if you look at the statistics for all the countries, you will find non-marital births. These are, some good word to give, actually. Nobody wants to carry, call them illegitimate or, bastard or any such word. They are not good. So they are all non-married. You can see there, actually. Some huge amount of crisis facing those societies. Where are all the husbands gone? Nobody knows. Nobody really knows. And there are other issues associated. A lot of studies, have come. Because single parent family is called in the newspaper. Actually, it is a single mother family, not single parent, single mother, most of the cases. And their ability to control their children, another thing, is relatively lesser. Because in all societies, over a long period of time, in the initial stages, father is always used as a controlling variable. Right? Appa will come, I will tell him, don't do this. So the child also at that age, 3-5 years, they really think Appa is the controlling person. As they grow up, they understand who is really in control of the situation. But as an youngster, you can always tell him something, That, so some amount of, what has happened due to this, I'm telling you an interesting thing. A lot of technical training school, like fitter, plumber, carpenter, painter, because large number of people in Europe goes to these school after school. They don't go to universities. University maybe 10-12% may go. Many of them go to these, they are called guild, and after that they get into apprenticeship, and parallelly they do also. In the past, in the 50s and 60s, the demand was much more than the supply. Today, many of them are not having enough students. The reason is again the same thing. Many of the single mothers are not able to compel their boys and girls to go to this school. At that age, normally the social pressure, Why do you write engineering exam? Because everybody is writing it. Some aunties will ask you, oh, you have not written that exam. Some uncle will ask you. There's a more pressure at that school-going age, which is coming down, and due to which, and what has happened in the net result in the last 25 years is, there is a huge mass of not just unemployed people in Europe, unemployable people, which is a much more severe thing actually. And that is what has taken place in these places. Unemployment rate is very high in Spain, Greece, Portugal. All of them is running youth unemployment. Youth mean in Europe 16 to 24. In India, because youth is sometime 50, 60, all that, at least. I do not know your standard. Our standard is up to 65, 70 is all right. Youth. Everybody is youth. Most of us have not been born even, that means, right? But there the definition is very rigorous, 16 to 24, which is really very high. So this is one type of an issue they face. Other type of issue they face is aggregate decline in the population itself. Two things are happening. People are living very long. At 60 today in many European countries, the life expectancy is 85. That means 25 years they have to be supported by pension fund or by the government. Assuming at 60 they go out of the workplace. It's a very huge thing. Europe used to have 25% of the global population, sir, in First World War time. Every fourth citizen of the world was European. We won't even believe it actually. Today it is around 11%. And in another 30 years it is expected to become 2%. Europe is going away. Of that, two major crisis countries are Russia and Japan. Japan is not in Europe. That's a very major. Every census they take, the number of people is shrinking in Japan. Every time. They are not talking about rate of growth or anything. It is another 250,000 has come down. Japan is facing an acute problem actually. And Japan has got additional problem than Europe. Europe at least has got this migrants from other part of the southern portion. Illegal or legal, they go on coming. Japan doesn't allow that also. Japan is very, there is a, council for aging by the King of Japan. I am also a member of that council. Maybe I am also aging, they have put me there. Every time we go, debate is same. Their reproductive rate is coming down. Girls are not wanting to get married. And it is already hovering around 1.3, 1.2. And it will expected to be less than 1. They don't want migration. Another 20, 30 years, Japan will not be there. You will see in this, Animal Planet or National Geography, endangered species. In a cage there will be 2 Japanese kept. These are the, there is in India, there is a, you might have heard, there is a group called Parsis, who are actually same way declining. They used to be some 3 lakh, now it is only of the order of 70, 75. I took a CD and then showed it to them. This is what, either you must have people from outside, migrant, or local. Otherwise there is a massive crisis in Japan. Russia, same thing. Between now and 10 years down, 100 Russians will become 85 Russians. Putin is, every Duma meeting is, they have done all the things. They have given incentive for the second, if you have a second child, both the child will be free education. If you have a second child, then you will also get free health benefit, tax incentives, all have been tried. So demography is a very serious issue for these countries. And demography is destiny. And Europe is disappearing. One good thing, my grandson need not mug up. Budapest is the capital of Hungary or which I used to do in school, all these capitals of European countries. I was so confused. I always used to write Norway as capital of Sweden and never got a mark. So that is, Europe story is a very, very difficult story. US is still flourishing because they have the Mexicans in the south who come into Europe. There are a huge number of Mexicans are. And this year, Europe faced a very fascinating, US faced a very interesting, what they call the cusp or the what do you call, turnover. What is the thing? The number of births this year, 52% were non-whites in Europe, in US. That means out of 100, 48 were only whites, 52 are others. So the major debate in US is, in another 40, 30 years, these 52 will grow up and US will become a non-white country. First step. And that is a phenomenally mind-boggling thing for some of the people in US at least, who are, who are not able to. And the numbers coming from south is so large. No one has an estimate of how many illegal immigrants are there in US. The only estimate economists have given is approximately 25% of their GDP comes due to these people, who are called, different states have got different names for them. Undocumented aliens, illegal immigrant, various names. And the estimate varies between anywhere of 10 million to 30 million for a population of 360 million. This is a huge numbers. So, but US is not to worry about purely numbers, unlike Europe and thing. So this has got a significant impact. Of course, many of the Asian countries also will face a similar. That will be around, say, 2050, 60. At least I won't be there to teaching another thing at that time. So the same crisis will be faced by, but it will take a much longer period. So what happens in the given context, it is required for us to focus on the markets which are coming up. It's not just like, to looking at the markets which are declining. Europe is and Europe has got other problem. I'm sure all of you are reading newspapers and other things. There is a massive amount of social upheaval and social tension in Europe. And kindly remember one important thing, in the last 2000 years, all the conflicts of the world emerged in Europe, not anywhere else. Europe was the original point of conflict. After that, everybody in the world was fighting everybody else. Second World War was primarily Britain and Germany, but a lot of people were dying in Burma, Singapore, and various Sudan and other places. So Europe is a source of conflict for the last 2000 years, and it has got a huge amount of social issues also. So what do we derive out of this is the important point. Important point, of course, the most funny part of it is, in Eurozone, they were all arguing there is no contagion. That means, every one of us is only having problem. Other fellow is not having problem. Denying it. For the last so many years, Spain is not Greece. That's what the Spanish finance minister told. Greece is having problem. It's not our problem. Then Portugal is not Greece was written, because Portugal is a separate country. Then it was told Greece is not Ireland. Suddenly they found out that Ireland is having problem, Greece is not having problem. Then Spain is neither Ireland nor Portugal. That is their finance minister declared. Various points of time, very interesting. Ireland is not in Greek territory, he told our Irish finance minister. And neither Spain nor Portugal is Ireland. That was concluded. And Italy is not Spain, because Italy has also got into the problem. It's a contagious disease actually. All of them have borrowed significantly, and all of them are finding it difficult to. And unfortunately, their economies are not picking up. There is no growth which is taking place in the economy. And this Spanish Prime Minister had the audacity to say, Spain is not Uganda. Why unnecessarily bring that country? It's a small country. It's doing its own growth or no growth. But this is the attitude of them. Then Ugandan Prime Minister got upset. So foreign minister is sent to Brussels, special flight. Really this happened. He sent him, he told Uganda does not want to be Spain. We will remain to be Uganda. Whatever, plus or minus, we will. So the net result is all of them are having problem. Everyone is telling that no, we don't have any problem. It's like, this common cold, everybody is having common cold, but everybody is pretending that other fellow is having it. This is what is the net result. What are the major changes have taken place in the whole world in the last 20 years actually? If you look back, it's very fascinating actually. First is fall of Berlin Wall, which demolished huge amount of theories, models, way of doing things. The entire thing, which the entire socialist edifice, whether one likes it or not, has really got broken. Which started around 1917s, Lenin's appraisal onwards. Much before that, a lot of theoretical discussion, another thing, 1850, Karl Marx. And the fall of Berlin Wall was a very, very major event. That has changed the way in which the world is looking at itself. Economic and financial crisis, one after another, in the last 15 years. So these were not anymore considered to be rare events or what are called random events. These are becoming more intrinsic to the thing. Decline of the West we were talking about. Europe is in crisis. Phenomenal amount of economic and financial crisis. And the Middle East, of course, is in phenomenal amount of conflict in Middle East is unbelievable. And whatever reports I see in the economic and financial intelligence, it is going to increase only. It is not going to decrease. And it is such a totally confused situation. Nobody knows who is actually fighting whom, but generally people are getting killed. That is what is happening actually. Middle East crisis is and conflict resolution and other things, so many things are being attempted. And now currently, Asia is the primary focus. It's the only continent which has got significant amount of not only potential, but exhibited potential. And this is recognized by what they call, this Wall Street Journal wrote a beautiful article about the axis of economic power has shifted to Asia. The entire axis of economic power has shifted to Asia. All of them are by and large saving countries even today. All the Asian countries are saving countries, not exclusively consuming country or anything. And all the Asian countries with all the difficulties and other thing are family-oriented countries. And you might be interested to know all the Asian countries by and large are bank-oriented countries. They are not stock market-oriented countries. Significant portion of the household saving goes to the banking system for various reasons. Even though so much is discussed and talked about the share market, whether it is Japan, China, India, and all other countries, including ours, good amount of funds are kept in the banking system. So that is what is the change. And of course, the technology has come and broken lot of barriers. This is something which many countries which were in the relatively not having good infrastructure, good organization, good thing, they all have been changed by the technology. Phenomenal. And particularly the mobile technology. Because in terms of your computer, laptop and other thing, you require to have some amount of what you call literacy or knowledge and other thing. And mobile doesn't require any of that. Because you require to hear, you should know how to hear and how to speak. That's all. In these two, everybody does. You don't have to be a graduate or nothing is required. So that has altered the way in which, and what has happened, we have studied a lot of markets, including ours in mobile. It has changed the way of what we call symmetric information. Earlier, information was available with some groups, not available with other groups. But because of the arrival of mobile and the speed of transformation, everybody has got access to information in terms of prices of products, whether he is a seller or a buyer, in terms of other characteristics. So this has totally changed the way in which we were acting. For instance, around the mid-90s, I have to wait every day, next day newspaper to find out what was the share price yesterday. You have to wait. There is no other way actually. And they will print what was the opening price, closing price, higher, lower, another. Not anymore. Now completely it is available on a instantaneous basis. As soon as transaction takes place, if you want, you can see in the screen and what is happening, or in your mobile phone. So that is the nature of the power, and it has empowered lot of average people. That is what is not recognized all over the world. It has empowered. My plumber, for instance, his income has doubled because he uses mobile. He receives only, he never makes any call, because making call will cost him, he knows that. In our place, it is free receiving. So he receives. And his model earlier was all people have to go to him before morning, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, place their grievance with him, and he will go around in his two-wheeler sorting out. And after lunch, he will go to sleep. There is no other, nobody will come post-lunch. Now he says it is accessible to him 24 hours. Evening also you can call him. He will come. This is the power. Kerala, these fisher people, when they go in the boat in the river front, from the shore, these fellows ring them up where to take the fish. There it is more price, here it is less price. Don't come this side, go that side, 5 miles away, another thing. Very, very interesting thing. So very changed the way in which small people do businesses as well as organize their affairs and activities. Because we tend to look upon it purely as a conversation medium. It is actually much more a medium for small businesses and small entrepreneurs. It has changed comprehensively, and we visualize it will change much more as times go by. Emerging markets are primarily in Asia. They are predominantly bank-oriented. Most important to understand. They are not so much, even though there is an enthusiasm in every country that, we must make people's household saving typically go to banks. And household saving play a very major role actually. All the countries, the housewives are the critical variable for economic growth, if you ask me. I always maintain. The ordinary housewife is actually responsible for economic growth in most of these countries. Unfortunately, they are not recognized. They are not taken to studio and photographed and other thing, right? But all the discussion every time is about only how much foreign investment come, how much. But they constitute a relatively very small portion in all the countries. Average housewife saves a lot, and actually very interesting. Now many of the experts in US and Europe says how to make the Asian woman spend. They don't seem to spend. They are only saving. There was a seminar, how to make the housewife spend. Can you believe this? I was invited wrongly for that seminar. I told, why would they spend? Many of these countries, we don't have a generalized social security system. Unlike in Europe, or that is the first point. Many of the self-employed people have to take care of themselves. How will they take care of themselves? Particularly in a declining joint family type of situation. Everybody has to. So that is, second is health. Again, there is not full coverage at till death. So for elderly age, health also you have to take care of it. So you have to save for that also. And education, it is becoming very expensive. Actually, the lower you go, more costlier it is. Compared to very high. High education is subsidized by the government. Low education is private. It's very costly, the lower. And I do not know, in Sri Lanka also it may be same. In India at least, banks don't give money for school education, loan. They give it for higher education, what we call IIT and engineering. I always used to wonder, for foundation of the house you don't give loan, but you give for 4th floor, and how it will sustain. Education being so costly, and Asian women, many studies have established, are obsessed with education of their children. They are very serious about education. More than the father. Mother is more worried about it. There's a lot of studies are there. Everybody is, why it is so? I can only find one reason. Because all the Asian women want their children to be better than their husbands. Very simple. Because this fellow cannot be rectified anymore, right? He's the, we call in India, ambassador car. I think most of you would have heard about it, right? It doesn't run, it cannot be sold, nothing can be done about it. Just, carry on, right? But this is what I call the revenge, generational revenge. Make this fellow better than, sometimes they will tell, don't be like Appa, study well. When he is not around, of course, right? Because they know that, that fellow, he will say, no, Appa was a gold medalist. You Andava, that is what he has told you. He is, 12th class, he struggled very hard. I don't want to tell you. You won't tell also. So the women are, the other day I was in a house, I asked the boy, what class you are studying? He told, father interjected. He told he's in 6th class, 6th standard. The boy told, Appa, I'm in 8th standard. I am not in, he doesn't even know that this son is 8th standard. Yes, cross. He doesn't have time, inclination. But ask the mother, she will say, what is his exam date? Who are his friends in the school? What is he doing? What type of, and then other extracurricular activity, everything. So on an average, Asian women are phenomenally, obsessed with the education of their children. So they would like to put them into the best school or best, and unfortunately in most of the Asian countries, best is equated with a higher price. Whichever is highest priced school, that is the best school. So where do you get funds for this? So you have to save your own money. And she saves a lot for it. And I know some of the poorer segment, she won't even foregoing some meal if she can educate her children in good schools. Because they somehow feel that good education is, so they save for that also. And then we have samskaras in all the countries of Asia, in terms of relatives' birth, relatives' marriage, death, all these, some money or other is spent by every one of us. In terms of, and lower segments spend more actually. They immediately rush on listening to the news about death or something. They will go on, spend money. Last but not least, all of us are common about knowing about it, the corruption money. Everybody has to give money to get any work done by anywhere in government, right? What I call womb to tomb corruption. Womb to tomb. That is birth certificate to death certificate. Both you have to. This also you have to pay. You don't have to pay. Your parents would have paid, hopefully. Death certificate, anyway, I don't have to worry. My wife has to run around. And everywhere you have to. Without that, all over Asia, nothing. That also has to be only in cash, unfortunately. And banks don't give loan for that. Sir, I have to bribe a government official, can I? Bank will say, sorry. You have to save for that also. That has to be in cash only, right? So, put together all these reasons, 25 to 30%. And on an average, all the housewives in Asia are very shrewd. They know that this is what is required, this is what is to be saved. And they are what one can loosely call the best finance minister. Impossible situation, right? Revenue is significantly lower than the expenditure. And they don't have access to printing press. But they manage still. That is what is. So savings by household is still a strong thing. Fortunately, so far, family institutions are intact. We don't know after 20, 30 years what would be the, but as of now, they are intact. And all are in some way or other dharmic civilization. Have certain sense of proportion, rebirth, karma, so many things are commonality among all these markets. The second major thing is, funds are in search of markets today, actually. It is not that markets are in search of funds. Huge amount of funds have got accumulated, particularly pension funds in US and Europe. I told you, they live significantly longer. So that means, pension provider has to give him for up to 85. At 60, 84, 85 is the expected life expectancy. Kindly note, the pension provider wants you to die tomorrow, whether you like it or not. The sooner you die, better for him. Longer you live, it is called longevity risk for him. Whereas the insurance provider don't want you to die at all. He life insurance fellow wants you to live permanently. This is a very, and the same company gives both the products. One GM praying that when this fellow will croak, another GM praying when this. So pension funds are phenomenally large, actually. They are in search of market. That is what is happening today. And given the situation in Europe, Middle East and parts of Africa, they have to look at Asian market. There is no other. And a lot of people, retired people, interestingly in many of these countries, their lifestyle has not altered. In the old, the thinking was $100 if you are having a lifestyle. After retirement, you will settle for $67 of lifestyle. In the sense, if you had 3 TV, you will make it into 1 TV. You will read of, Bible or Gita and other thing and post-retirement. But now it is not the case. After retirement, they travel lot all over the world. In our place, there is a Goa one resort. All are old people. Old, very old and further old. They all come there. Whereas in the 60s and 70s, all hippies used to come there and smoking all these weeds and other things. So I told somebody, maybe the same fellows are returning now after, they did all that. And then now they may be feeling, we shouldn't have done those things. And then they are coming back. God knows. But globally travel, if you see, elderly travel is increasing. They are telling, and ordinary people, they are not tycoons or anything, from Germany, France, various, Spain and other things, technicians, teachers, because they are arguing that during our working time, we didn't have either leave or time or money to travel all over. Now we want to see. So what has happened is, pension funds are having the pressure on them to earn, to meet these people's lifestyle requirements. Otherwise, they will shift from one fund to another fund. So that is so funds are in search of markets actually. And obviously, one of the mechanism is funds would prefer more transparent market. So major strength which we can use is our location strength. For instance, our country, I think the significant strength we have to use is tourism. Now, I saw some numbers, I can share it, you all may be knowing. It's currently around 8 to 10%. Can easily be 20-25% actually, both direct and indirect. The advantage is, the game is played in our territory. It's not played in somebody else's territory. And networks have to be built by entrepreneurs. There's no point in, and network should be based upon, again, on common cultural. There is a study of 300 global mergers and acquisition which took place. Various, joint ventures and others. All over the world. They found out very interesting, out of 300, hardly 60, 70 have succeeded. Most of the others have not succeeded. Because most of the others went only by what you may loosely call the contracts and paper and ratios and other things, return on investment and other. The succeeded ones had some cultural fit. And this is something I think we should remember. When we forge, when we have certain amount of linkages with a worldly thing, what type of commonality in terms of our, outlook, understanding towards life, what is called in the German parlance, Weltanschauung, worldview, is there something common, And that is one of the major things which World Hindu Economic Forum is focusing on. Is it possible for bring together dharmic people to have certain amount of concrete relation on a global basis? So, based on common cultural mooding. Now, the old way, you can never capture markets anymore. That colonialism wave is over. Whether, you have a gun and a knife and then try to get the market access. Not anymore possible. It's not, and public is not also going to accept. So entry barriers are becoming strong. How to overcome that? What type of, and most important is exit also. When you enter, you must think of ability to exit. Otherwise, what we call the Abhimanyu in the market. You might have heard about that Mahabharata character, I'm sure, right? Who knew how to get into the Chakravyuha, but he didn't know how to come out of it. So we should keep an option. I'm not telling you must plan only for exit, but we should keep an option. Is it possible? Finding strategic partners is a very, very major task. All numbers will come later. With whom we are partnering, the person. What is the nature of the moorings? What is the nature? Common culture give rise to much better long-term relationship. Even though there is so much amount of studies and other things have talked about cross-cultural and other things. But in business, common culture has got a lot of, in terms of understanding, your waiting time may be, 3 years. His waiting time may be 10 years. And that comes out of his cultural moorings. Not necessarily in terms of understood. So the characteristics are, many of them have a very low manufacturing base. not a very large manufacturing base even today. There are specific competitive advantages. So each country has got its own. And cost attraction, of course, is a very major thing in many of these emerging markets. Not only cost of labor affordability, the number. You see, for instance, I will give an example. This Ford Motor Company, not now, some 10 years before, they wanted to set up a facility near Chennai. A huge facility, 700 accountants, what they call Global Reconciliation Center. Everywhere there is a problem of reconciliation of accounts. The Spain will say that we sent 1,000 tires to France in manufacturing. France will say we have not received it. That is the same company, Ford company only. And then they will break their head. After that, somebody will go to lunch and and then it will be all pushed under suspense account or irreconcilable. The irreconcilable are plenty in the global accounting system. And totally the company will say we are doing very well. And this grows to large proportion. I think people in accounting will know that it will become a big issue. But till then. So I was talking to their finance person, why do you want to set it up? No, what is the advantage? Is it because of cheap labor? He said that is only one dimension. Second is the availability of people. You produce engineers like cockroaches, like everybody is coming out. Chartered accountant like cockroaches. So if I want 700 and advertise, I get 50,000 applicants. Well, as to assemble them in Detroit or in San Francisco, it will take 10 years for me. I can't get. So pure numbers also is becoming, it's not labor affordable in terms of price. Many places price is actually going up. It's not easy. And last but not least, I think, is social harmony is very important consideration to look at. And entry strategy, we have to think very carefully. What are the countries' overall business proposition? More important is which industries we are. Can it be sustained? That is another thing. Exit strategy. Government regulations are always there to be followed. And some of the smaller countries, another thing, it would be dangerous not to follow the government regulation. It's a very, suddenly the fellow may be put inside prison, another thing. One has to be much more cautious. Issues of corruption, it's there everywhere I go, people are, that way I am very happy. All humanity is united. That is something. The commonality among all the human beings is corruption. Right. One of the thing is actually, the better off segment exhibit worse off behavior, I found in all the countries. The poorer segment actually are, for instance, if you analyze the bank loans in many countries, you will find the better off fellows are generating more NPA than the poorer fellows. Because the poorer fellows have fear of God. Better off fellow must have fear of law. Fear of God is not there among, if you acquire more and more wealth, fear of God is not there. Now, if you don't have fear of God and fear of law, then the society is in problem. You must have fear of God, at least. Most of the poorer segment may not know all the law. They do not even know what they are signing and other thing. They may put their thumb impression, but they will actively work to return the funds. So this issue of corruption is becoming a very major one on a global scale. And lot of funds are kept in the tax havens, what are popularly called these days. In the old time, they were called innovative financial center, believe me, sir. Same thing, same Cayman Islands, same Switzerland, were called innovative financial center. How the terminology itself changes with the time. Today they are called under OECD banner, they are called illicit financial centers. The innovative has become illicit. The reason is developed countries are in crisis, so they want to get wherever some money is there, want to get it back. Germany started this actually in 2007. They stole the data. Literally they employed their intelligence agency, and they have a nearby one chota country called Liechtenstein. Very small country, it's maybe of this hotel size, slightly more perhaps. They have a bank, and the prince also known as same name, Liechtenstein. Bank also names, country name, everything is only one name, so you don't have to too much worry. So these German fellows are keeping money there, and this was not top secret. Everybody knows. If you are very rich in Germany, you will keep your money in outside. You won't pay any taxes to German government. But after the economic crisis, lot of pressure on the government, so the government stole the data. Government got some 4,000 names. Liechtenstein was shouting, we are a sovereign country, you cannot steal data. And German being a big gorilla, I told, keep quiet. You stole our money, we stole your data, so it is cancelled. So, and then Germany initiated action against people who kept money in the Liechtenstein bank. The number one was, of course, the Deutsche Post, head of the German Post. Anyhow, after that, they had some 700 data free available to them, which are not Germans. So they waived that and told, anyone can come and take it from us. US sent people, Sweden sent people, Australia sent people. One big country from Asia did not send anyone. Right? My country, it didn't send anyone. I was puzzled actually. Puzzled because something is given free and Indians are not in the queue. How it can? Right? Isn't it? If it is given free, you have to find her. Nobody is in the queue. And I wrote all this to the finance minister of Germany. And you give it to me. After all, nobody is coming from on behalf of them, I will. He told, no, not possible. Only sovereign nations can be given. You are not a sovereign. You are, after all, a teacher. So we won't. So I then wrote to all the members of parliament, elected members, and all these people in India, ministers, everybody. What else to do? And then articles in newspapers and other things. Finally, it became a very major issue that time. And that time, the chief of the parliamentary leader, L.K. Advani, he took it up on a very serious basis. Anyhow, then finally we sent somebody and then got some data. And in between, one of the noted lawyers actually, he filed a petition in the Supreme Court in India. Ram Jethmalani, he filed a thing that so much something we have to do about it. And the court took it up very, very seriously. Then it went on and it's going on. It's not at solved or anything. And in the process, of course, people say how much is there, give the names of people, give the, as if we are the investigative agents, exact amount you tell. It's a black money, sir, how can I tell? Even though the fellow who is holding it may not know how much he is holding it. That is another very interesting thing. A lot of people who have huge black money do not know how much they have, because here and there they have generated and kept it. It's like the 16th century, the prince who goes around the place. He doesn't know how many children he has. Got all over the place, He used to go, in all over the place. And then suddenly somebody will say that. And when he dies only, you will come to know. Because every place, somebody will do some final rights for him. Like that. Many of these fellows do not. And actually, the European banks have benefited phenomenally by it. People who keep and who don't pass on the information, and if you expire, many banks have got regulation like 8 years, 10 years, unoperated account. Then they will take it into their kitty as a reserve. And Switzerland, there is a major problem because there is a 100-year rule. Those banks which took away that money, after 100 years, it would release it to the Swiss government. So the huge amount of funds came around 1920, in that period of time, from Germany and other places. A lot of Jews kept their funds. And many of that was taken over by the banks. And now the Swiss government is demanding that 100-year rule is, and these people are putting pressure that, modify that rule and other thing, because we cannot afford to now give it at today's rate. And anyhow, that's the issue of corruption has become a huge thing actually, very large one. And Germany, France, US are the three countries which are fighting. US is very serious. Vis-a-vis, so US is a very simple country. You do any mischief all over the world, it doesn't matter. We don't mind. But don't do anything inside our country. So their logic is very simple. US citizens can go around doing anything. It doesn't matter. Destabilize government, collapse banks, all that, it's all right, sir, okay. He's our But inside US don't. So when they found out UBS is having huge amount of money, the US Department of Justice, not the Revenue Department, they told that you give 54,000 names to us, and Swiss bankers were shocked actually. 54,000 names were asked by the US. And one of the most senior, two senior people in UBS were arrested or put inside jail by US. US is a very, then 800 million US dollar, they paid the fine, UBS, and they thought its matter is over. US told, okay, fine is fine, but give the names again. Arey Baba, we have given you money is separate. You give the names. So they gave some names, but they are not satisfied. So Swiss was finally now working on to amend their, because in Switzerland there is a big problem. Their constitution says the banker cannot talk about their customer to anybody else. It's not the banking law. It is their country's constitutional law, which has to be amended. So there's a big tussle is going on. France, Germany, everywhere, big tussle is going on. So all the emerging countries are all waiting with their palms open. Out of all these galata, some money will, some group of rich fellows are fighting. So you should go and stand with your palm like that. So some, in 2-3 rupees at least will fall in your palm. That is what are called unintended consequences. So many of these people are waiting. I'm sure sooner or later some settlement has to come on this. It cannot go on for long period of time. And one of the most important thing to recognize is, in all entry to emerging market, contract enforcement is very critical. Many of these countries are very poor in contract enforcement. If it takes something like 8-10 years for settling a financial dispute, it is not worthwhile to look at those countries. Unless you can come out of it outside the contract in terms of understanding. That's what I told. Selecting the partner becomes very critical sometime. They will not too much bother about what is written on the paper and go through the court procedure. They will say, we will just sort it out. I'll give you so much, you get so much, and come out of the whole thing. The last is, larger the investment, greater should be the, obviously, correct partners identification, risk averse and risk takers. Some are risk averse, some are risk takers. And there is huge number of studies why some people are able to take risk. It's not a settled issue at all, right? There was a study in Germany with something like 30-year data, and they found 40% of saving habit of people is genetically decided. Unbelievable. There's a huge controversy on that actually, because it completely alters. 40% of the saving habit of the people mean that it depends on who was your, it's like any other diabetes or very other thing. Some people are spenders. You give him 1,000 rupees, in another 1 hour he will come back telling another, where is the next 1,000? You give somebody else 1,000, he will save it. What have you done? No sir, I have put it in, I have saved. Why this? Why some people are? So there are thinking about people having what one can call issues of hereditary, and it's a very controversial type of a topic. Neurobiological finance it is called. It's one of the emerging fields. One of the person from Kerala, Villianur Ramachandran, he is in California actually. He has done extensive work. You can go to Google and find out Ramachandran Villianur. He has done very extensive work on neurobiological finance. What he says is, or what possibly I am trying to, in a simple language, after 15 years, your wealth or your fund manager will come along with a doctor. And he will say, sir, given your cholesterol level, given your blood pressure, you should not invest in this company, you invest in this company. That is what, in a very simple type of a thing. A lot of neurobiological issues are involved in your attitude towards risk. So this is something very, very interesting. And so risk averse and some are risk takers. Why do they take risk? Why does it, it's very, so many areas, sociology, psychology, so many areas are involved in studying this. Why do some people gamble, for instance? Large portion of Chinese are known to be inveterate gamblers actually. They don't mind gambling. And why do some other people never get into, they are averse to gambling. So there is a break or something in his enthusiasm. So this is what is, it's a very interesting area actually. And managing uncertainty is something very, very important. And by and large, emerging market people know how to manage uncertainty because they are born in uncertainty. They have lived through uncertainty. Everything is uncertain. So one professor of insurance was in my institute at Bangalore. He asked, are you all risk takers? I told, Baba, from here I go to the city center in my two-wheeler. Is that not proof that I am a risk taker? Because any time I can die. The road death is highest in India. So what else you want me? And I am not even insured. So we are all great risk takers. Every activity we undertake is risk only. We don't recognize it, we don't realize it actually. But we are risk takers. We just get into that. So managing uncertainty is not so difficult for us. But the problem for us, all the emerging market people, is measuring the uncertainty. We don't comprehend, how much level of uncertainty is there, how much is the loss it could come. And last but not least is, again, the same thing what I was earlier mentioning. There is a dharmic civilizations, there is a need to unite in the next 40, 50 years. The world is changing significantly, so the geographical domains are breaking down. No more geographical domains are going to be jurisdiction and other things. So, which are the dharmic? They have to identify the commonalities and they have to combine together. There is no other way in which the greater good of the world can be sustained. Basically, dharmic ones are accepting differences, respecting the differences, and who don't say that my way or highway, that type of a thing. No. It's a huge amount of requirement of dharmic civilization to find a commonality across board, both in Asia and other parts, and re-establish a new world order based on dharmic civilization. And Asian countries can play a very large role in this, actually. All type of civilizations, Asian civilization, should play a very large role in creating a newer type of a world order. That is what. Then there are some details about our country, but I don't think you require to. This is what I was mentioning. Today it is some sort of combining. The total contribution is around 10% actually in the tourism industry, travel and tourism. I feel it can easily be 15 or so, or maybe 20 in the next couple of years. And there is a phenomenal amount of opportunities. Because as I told you, the elderly people all over the world, because everywhere people talk about demographic dividend, we have to talk about the other side also. They want to travel, they want to see places, they want to. So there is a huge opportunity for countries like ours in order to get that benefit, and our arrivals are phenomenally increasing. I am sure in the next 5 years it will shoot up much, much bigger, and the purpose still is earlier, but I think there is a huge opportunity for us to convert ourselves into an international conference center. This is a massive opportunity because the global conferences they find holding it in Europe or US is very, very expensive. I think we have to leverage on it, and we have to, maybe we can have many more, conference auditoriums and centers, and then that would be on an average, believe me sir, you won't even, 120 to 140 global conferences are taking place every day. And Europe is outpriced itself. It's not very easy to, right? My Asian Risk and Asia Pacific Risk and Insurance Association, every time we want to hold either in Paris or in Zurich or in, every time it is told, sir, it is not cost effective. So every time we look at Singapore or Thailand or South Korea or some of these countries. So there is a huge opportunity from the point of view of making ours in convention and meeting center, global. That is something which one can think about it. Direct employment and other thing is there. So in a sense, I think the future, emerging future is for the countries like ours, emerging economies. There is no need to have any doubt about it, actually. So how do we leverage on it? How do we build a newer global order, newer world order? All of us, in some way or other, responsible for it, actually. Because the existing world order is coming to an end, believe me. We require to build new institutions. We require to build a newer way of looking at things and doing things. And for which I am sure our WHEF is, to some extent, strengthening it. And the meeting he mentioned about in UK, London, September, right? And thank you for your patient hearing on a Friday evening, right? Thanks a lot.